Alex is up next. He's on the board of TMX Technologies, award-winning climate health scientist. He also has connections to the Explorers Club and founder of a new institute on environmental and economic research. Alex, over to you.
Hello. Thank you for the kind introduction. Today we're going to talk about how lowering energy demand with innovative materials can achieve climate resilience as a bridge technology to get us to our Paris Agreement goals. As we all know, renewable energy is not growing as fast as fossil fuels, which are still the majority of the sources of energy worldwide, according to the IEA and the World Economic Forum and many other authorities. Most of our energy still comes from fossil fuels, and most of it is used a lot of it is used for commercial, residential, industrial buildings, with 40% of it, in fact, used for buildings. Global consumption of energy is about 13,000 megatons of oil equivalent. 40% of that is used for buildings, with China and US leading in energy consumption, and India a close third. And this is a 15 trillion market, which continues to grow, as do carbon emissions. As I said, most of it is fossil fuels. 40% of that 15 trillion market is used for buildings. And we expect this to grow even further. A McKinsey & Company expect 100% increase in energy demand from Africa, 150% from India, 88% from Southeast Asia. And the IEA is actually a little bit more negative on the prognostication here. By 2040, expecting a 200% increase in energy demand from India and 160% from Africa. A lot of this is due to the fact that these areas of the world are not only the more populated areas of the world, but they're also the ones that are experiencing the worst of climate change, not only in terms of instability, which is really what climate change means, but also in terms of warming, with a large proportion of the days in a year above 95 degrees Fahrenheit, with an enormous humidity, and which makes living outside almost impossible and actually a health threat. And living inside, indoors, is also a threat if there is not enough cooling. We are used in the United States to 90% of our buildings being cooled by air conditioners. That is not the case in the rest of the world. I grew up in Italy and Greece, and air conditioners are just now being adopted more widely. It was a luxury throughout most of my childhood. It is only 7% of countries of buildings, in India are air conditioned. Indonesia, which is one of the most populous countries in the world, has only 9% of its buildings air conditioned. Brazil, only 16%, and China is only a half of its buildings. And all of them are developing quite fast, and all of them are converting to air conditioners quite fast, both due to more prosperity in those economies, as well as the availability of the technology, which is becoming cheaper, although not more efficient. And if you want a really scary prospect of what this means, particularly in Southeast Asia, we are expecting an 800% increase in energy demand from AC units in the ASEAN residential area, and 900% in Indonesia alone by 2040, according to the IEA, which is entirely due the need to address the warming brought about by climate change, and to address it and for living conditions by increasing the air conditioner units in the world. Efficiency in cooling equipment has thus been a necessity, but it has not actually been something that has been adopted or that is being developed widely throughout these areas. And this is the share of how much energy is going to go to ACs worldwide, which is quite remarkable, 200% worldwide increase in 20 years. Most of this energy, again, as I said, is going to space cooling, and 12% is going to heating. So for climate control of indoor spaces, we're using about 50% of our energy worldwide, which is quite remarkable. 50% of the energy used worldwide is being used for climate control of indoor spaces of where we live, our apartments, our houses, our offices. That's truly a symptom, I think, of if there is the clearest symptom of climate change. We have a temperature, and we're trying to cool ourselves. The reduction targets for 2030 for climate, the Paris Climate Agreement are what you see on the screen, and a 30% reduction in energy demand worldwide would really be the saving grace. However, there is no current technology that can achieve 30% reduction, as the World Economic Forum most recently pointed out. Currently, there is no technology that really can give us that reduction in a short amount of time. Google, among others, who have invested in climate mitigation technologies, has identified nanotechnology as a potential and really imperative solution to be adopted. And this is what TMX produces and as patented. Most surfaces in your buildings are covered in random nanoparticles. If you look at the exterior of your buildings where we live, they're coated in particles that are randomly aggregated. So they're not really on a nanoscale, they're not organized in an efficient way to reflect light. And we all expect that light reflectance is only a function of color, right? The wider the building, the lighter the building, the more light and heat it will reflect. And the darker the building, the more heat it will absorb. It turns out that, in fact, it's also something that the heat reflectance of a building is actually also strictly tied to the nanoscale arrangement of particles and surfaces. And TMX's heat abatement technology, which is patented and among the dozen plus patents that TMX and the Daniels Family Sustainable Energy Foundation hold, actually addresses this precise problem. You can think of it as a sunscreen, physical sunscreen. When you put sunscreen on your body, it's not whitening your body, it's not making it any lighter, right? But it is in fact protecting you against UV rays, because on a nanoscale, the sunscreen is reflecting light more efficiently. That's what the heat abatement technology materials that that TMX produces do, and they can achieve up to 30% less heat absorption by reflecting sunlight. So if you know how physical sunscreen works, you know how heat abatement technology works. Basically, if you apply heat abatement technology to the exterior surfaces of a building or anything else for that matter, it will absorb less heat and reflect more sunlight, reducing the need of air conditioning and the use of it overall. And the great thing about this product is that it can be applied to any surface, exterior or roofs or on walls, and really any material. So again, it's current materials are made out of particles that are arranged randomly and are not efficiently reflecting light. TMX brings science to rather obsolete technologies today. And imagine, like having surfaces of your buildings made out of tiny little pieces of mirror, and some of them are not, these mirrors are not well calibrated to reflect light. What TMX does is it calibrates those microparticles on a nanoscale in order to achieve higher reflectance. So here you can see the reflectance spectrum for the science nerds out there of normal materials, currently called coal materials on the planet, on the market, and then our materials at TMX and the Daniels Family Sustainable Energy Foundation. So in summary, it's a actually 15 trillion opportunity. Energy consumption grows, but scaling up of renewables is lagging. And the solution is leveraging science to improve the heat abatement of building materials with these patented solutions that can be applied very easily to any existing buildings. I should mention also that this is a bridge technology. We hope that it will bring us to, it will bridge the gap until such time when we will have a renewable energy being the major producer of energy worldwide. But currently, we just are not moving fast enough, and it will require enormous investment. We hope the Biden administration's recent plan will do so. But as things stand right now, that is not being implemented. So with that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to be on this panel today. And if you'd like more information, please feel free to visit our website, tmxtechnologies.com, or reach me on LinkedIn.
Great. Alex, thank you very much. We do have questions coming in. This one from Joseph Martin. Great presentation, of course. Is your technology used by Saint Gobain glass? His home in India is using Saint Gobain glass, and he believes that nanotechnology is used to prevent 66% of the heat entering the building. Does that sound familiar?
No, it does not, but that doesn't mean anything because I'm not familiar with all materials and the rest of the world. So, oops, I put a timer for myself so that I wouldn't go over. It's possible. The patents we have are rather broad. That TMX has are rather broad, and there are several of them. So it's possible that it's a technology that has been the technology that's been mentioned falls under that patent, or may not. I don't know. Been issued rather recently. So.
But comment on Europe then, because radiant heat and cooling panels are in use in Europe, and when powered by VRF heat pumps can be very efficient. Would you comment on that?
This is one of several solutions that those radiant heat panels are effective. However, they don't function the same way, and I don't think that they can really cover the entire surface of a building, as far as I know. Radiant heat panels, as they're being installed by my friends in Norway and most energy efficient buildings in the world, don't cover the entire building. And this technology really addresses the developing world particularly, which is why we also have a foundation that can address those situations where a private company can't intervene, in order to provide this technology to actually the neediest areas of the world that are really dying of heat. I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm a public health scientist as well, and I can tell you that heat stroke and heat stress are not only killing a lot more people, but also increasing the migration across the world.
And that raises an important issue of scaling, because Tim Walters has asked what percentage of buildings would have to employ this technology to really make a difference. I mean, I guess my interpretation, how scalable is this? I mean, I think this is really important.
It's supremely scalable. It's exquisitely scalable. It's in fact one of the easiest, most applicable technologies. I mean, I'm a scientist. I wouldn't have signed up if I didn't think that this was actually a very, very promising solution, because it really does not require any additional material to be used on buildings. All you have to do is coat them. Or create, coat them. That's it. So it's eminently scalable.
So you were terrifically efficient in your presentation, but tell us about TMX. I mean, are you a research company? Do you do manufacturing?
Currently, we are researching. However, the TMX also owns manufacturing branches and has been in the construction and building materials business for 40 years with some of its subsidiaries. So, in fact, particularly in ventilation.
And another quick question.
We have labs in California and Hawaii at the moment. So,
thank you.
Research.
The other issue, of course, is you've mentioned that there's a 30% reduction or absorption in reduction with application nanoparticles. What are you comparing that against? I mean, I'm assuming that what Blake is asking is different materials must have different natural properties. When you talk about a 30% reduction in heat absorption, can you just
standard materials, which are 90% of materials, even in the most modern cities, including New York City. We're still the building materials and the construction business, has some innovation, has seen some innovation in recent years due to climate awareness, but it is eminently an industry that has lacked scientific approach to materials, particularly for decades. And it's part of it is the fact that we don't have space, especially in cities, to build new structures. So the structures are usually the same ones, and they get restored, usually with economizing, which obviously also causes what we know as the heat island effect. So cities tend to be a lot hotter than surrounding areas where there are trees. And that's because all of these materials are absorbing heat and retaining heat for much longer. And hopefully, we're confident that this technology may address that problem as well.
And I do have a question, but I'm interested in this because I'm a dual citizen. I'm from Canada. The question has come up. Clearly an application in these heat challenged parts of the world, but what about in the far north? What about winter application? Because many people, of course, are looking to absorb heat during winter.
Yeah, so interestingly, this technology can be calibrated for northern latitudes as well to absorb heat. It's as I mentioned, microparticles can be calibrated to absorb or reflect heat. We have not, those populations usually in northern latitudes are a lot fewer than the ones that are really in dire straits right now. But yes, it can be applied to that.
No, your focus was excellent, and I appreciate that. Just a last question raised by Sarah, but another good question. This kind of technology, I guess, this arrangement of nanoparticles or nano scale microparticles would have applications in solar, I assume, as well, that you could, what you're doing, of course, is trying to reflect more heat, but you could also be rearranging to absorb more sunlight and perhaps improve the efficiency of solar. Wouldn't that follow?
Yes, but solar panels work slightly, they work with solar cells, so the technology is slightly different. However, we are happy to explore that opportunity as well. It's just not something that is currently in our patents, although I know that our scientists are working on it.
And you finished on time. My sincere thanks.
I have to apologize. I must have missed the memo, and that I should not use a PowerPoint. So for all those who follow me, no PowerPoints. So here, I'll do it for you and self-flagellate. Thank you so much.
Well, that was a superb presentation. Thank you very much.